Alrighty, what is going on, everyone? Hope you are all doing well. Welcome to another week of the Anti-Hustlers Weekly Show. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Brian Downard. After a couple incredible guests in a row, Brian and I are back here to share with you new insight that we're really excited to support you on. We're going to be talking today about selling year-long contracts, how to frame it appropriately, why it's important, and what you need to do to make this happen so you can start selling more successfully. That's what we're here to cover. Brian, how you doing today, bud?
Living the dream.
Hey, oh, he's back to living the dream, my guys.
I gotta go back to something that felt good.
Gotta go back to the original. I love it. Perfect. So there's three main topics that we promised to cover today. How to price for profitability and creating KPIs to keep clients happy. Number two, the 7 most common objections to long-term contracts and how to handle them. And number 3, how to frame the conversation to sell with 6 and 12-month retention in mind. So here is what we're going to do on this call. We're going to chat a little bit about selling in general and all of those elements and why this all matters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what we also want to do is make sure this is very interactive. If there's anything that you are struggling with in your sales process at all, whether you are watching this live in the Facebook group or you are here in the Zoom link itself, please feel free to just ask any questions you have, any objections you deal with, any ways that you need us to help you and support you. That's what we're here to do on this call every single week, and we appreciate your time. Let's just dive into the first element. We've been talking about this quite a bit in the past few sessions, but I think it's a good thing to just reiterate, fairly consistently, I would say. And that is the oversimplification of business scaling. When we talk about oversimplification of business scaling, we're talking about an easier way to compartmentalize what aspect of your company you need to be working on. Because oftentimes it's very overwhelming when there's so many different elements related to operations, accountability, prospecting, sales, hiring, team management, technology, and so many other things in between. I just named like 7 or 8 things. But what we like to do is just to simplify it, let's consider 3 elements. Again, this is an oversimplification. That doesn't mean that all the other minutia and niche details don't matter. Of course they do. It's just an easier way to compartmentalize how we can coach you today. There's 3 main things that need to happen to grow your business. Number 1, you need to book sales calls. Number 2, you need to close those deals. And number 3, you need to retain those clients. Today, we're really going to be focusing on options 2 and 3. If you want any training on how we have helped people book more sales calls, we have a ton of it in the Replay Vault. We also run a mentorship program 1-to-1. If you want support in scaling your agency to $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 or more beyond, just reach out to Brian or myself, or reach out to us here on the Replay Vault or in the Facebook group, and be more than happy to support you in working with us. That being said, today we're going to be talking about sales. Now, I've done a lot of different coaching in sales. I've been presenting at Harvard University, Columbia about psychology of sales, which is super cool. I wrote a book which has to do a decent amount with sales as well. I have obviously trained people in corporate sales consulting. I've spoken at high levels events. We've run our own events. And obviously I've kind of coined, I don't know if that's fair, but I'm going to go with it. Coined the one call close model. I probably didn't coin it. I'm sure someone else did, but I've kind of like taken ownership of it. I don't know if that's fair to say or not, but in general, it's not my trademark or anything, but in general, that's kind of my MO, right? The one call close. The one call close, again, is the entire purpose of ensuring that we are qualifying our prospects and doing a presentation in one call. The reason being is that the most valuable asset your prospects have is not their credit card. It's their time that they're giving you for free. A huge element of sales, right, is making sure the person shows up in the first place. If the person doesn't show up in the first place, you have no chance to sell anyways. And no-shows are a big part of the agency space. They are a big part of the agency space, no matter what you do, right? They're going to be, whether you're doing SaaS or high ticket sales or coaching, there's going to be no-shows on your calls, ranging anywhere from 20% upwards of 50+%, which obviously if you're above 50%, it's a huge problem and needs to be a focus of your business to simplify and ultimately get more people to show up on your calls. If you want help with showing people up on getting people to show up on your calls, we've done training on this as well in the Replay Vault that you can check out called Selling Your Sales Calls. All that to say, the one call close format is what we're going to be utilizing today to help you frame how to sell year-long contracts. The simplest way that we're going to break this down is understanding success KPIs. And I'm going to bury that lead for a second here before asking this to Brian. So obviously, Brian, we're talking about booking calls, closing deals, retaining clients. Since we're talking about the last 2 today, closing deals and retaining clients, why is it so important that we're trying to frame our calls to sell year-long contracts, Brian?
So I think I said this in the pre-show, right? This is where in order to stack recurring revenue in your business and oftentimes create the biggest impact in your client's business, it needs to be framed as a longer term relationship than how most people are selling it. Depending on what you sell, that can be, very challenging. We're going to get into that on this call. Yeah, it's so critical because if you are churning and burning clients, you stay stuck on this hamster wheel and can't really break through that ceiling of $10, $20, $30,000 recurring, because you have to constantly replace those clients who are leaving. So you need to learn how to keep clients. And part of obviously that is how you sell and present your offer. And I think the good part about this as well is, even if you are angling for 12 months, but you have it still could be done within 6 months, 8 months, 9, whatever that number is, it still feels like a win to the person you're maybe having that conversation with. If they go back, okay, it's not 12 months, it's 6 months, that's still a bigger win for you as well. And a lot of times, like I'm saying, like we want to obviously get the result for our client. A lot of times that can't happen at a 3-month span. Imagine you sign someone up in October, late October. Now it's the holidays, November, December, New Year. You're feeling like you're getting bad results, then they churn out by before February, when like if they could have committed to the process a little longer, they would have got that result. So it really comes down to doing what is best for the prospect. So learning how to actually get the result and present it in a way that shows them this is the best thing to do, because look at all of these XYZ results of clients who stayed with us for 6, 12, 18 months, and the results that compounded over time, that's earned. These are the kinds of things you want to be doing and framing on your calls.
Love it, man. That's such a good insight. And I want to just reiterate that last thing Brian talked about, doing what's best for your prospect. That is how sales works. Okay. That's the entire purpose of what we're doing in sales. Anytime that I'm coaching sales, I understand that the language in which you understand psychology and understanding how to influence decision-making is actually the same tactics that con artists use and charlatans use to screw people over. Please do not be that person. Go in with the intention of truly supporting your clients, because the success of your client means the success of your business, because they're likelier to actually keep working with you. Let's talk a little bit about the landscape of the agency space that we've seen in terms of sales over the last few years. Originally, one of the main differentiating factors for marketing agencies was that they were promising results within that 30-day timeline, meaning that first renewal period, instead of offering a chunk of time as their initial promise. So for example, you'd see a lot of people saying, hey, like so-and-so attorney, the reason why you should work with us is you only are going to continue working with us if we get results. And we can get results with you in the first 30 days to prove it. And if you're not happy, you don't have to pay us the second time. A lot of people use this frame originally because they felt that it was easier to sell. And in many ways, it is easier to sell because seemingly what we're doing is lowering the risk. Risk mitigation, meaning taking any risk or assuming any risk from the prospect, makes sales inherently simpler, right? That's why people do guarantees. That's why you showcase social proof. That's why you have certain promises. That is what allows them to feel more comfortable to make the investment. But what we often then see is when someone's offering a product, a promise, SEO, PPC, SaaS, or anything that you're going to get this X result in a 30-day time frame, you're not giving yourself and fulfillment team enough time to deliver upon that promise. So for example, you sell 25 accounts on this month-by-month plan. Within the second month, you've had at least 50% of those people churn. That is not an effective way to grow your business, and also puts a very bad look on you, your team, your opportunities, your future leads. It also mentally drains you to think, am I selling something that I can't actually deliver? So then what we saw in the industry was a huge turn into the 90-day frame. This is something that Brian and I had coached for probably like 2 years or so, I would say. In general, before I go on to bash any of this, which I'm not going to, if you can only sell 90-day frames, 3-month frames, that's still significantly better than doing a month-by-month frame. Our goal on this training is that we mitigate you to selling at minimum 6-month frames, ideally 12-month frames. And I'm going to talk about how to do that here in just a second.
Yeah.
In terms of going into the 90-day frame really quick, the 90-day frame, a lot of people would make a promise of like, hey, in 90 days, I'm going to get you this specific result. The problem that ends up happening is we end up seeing in that 90-day frame, like 30, 45 days in, the prospect does not have faith that you're capable of achieving this result in that 90-day frame. And that's why it's so important that you are confident in your team's ability to achieve a result. And so I wanted to share this hack with you that I think is absolutely key. And that is the conservative estimate in sales. Conservative estimate in sales. If you go into a prospect conversation and you explain to them that in 90 days, we're going to be able to create 20 sales opportunities for you, the prospect might not be so excited about that. leverage this and explain, look, I'm going to show you proof of clients that have worked with us in 90 days. They were to get 30, 40, and even 50 plus sales opportunities in a 90-day frame. The reason I'm not coming to you and saying we're going to get you 50 is because it leaves us zero wiggle room to actually deliver upon the result. I would rather undersell and over deliver, because my job is not to sell you by any means necessary. My job is to give you proper expectations so that even at the minimum rate, which is 20 guaranteed sales opportunities, you'd still make an ROI. And knowing that internally, when we hit that 20, whether it's in 10 days, 40 days, or at the 90th day, we're not celebrating that we got this. That is the minimum KPI. That is the minimum of our expectation. We're going to keep working to ensure that you get 25, 35, 40. And the way that we sell is ensuring that you have appropriate expectation setting. When you sell this way, you have a much better chance of actually creating a trust with your prospect and also showcasing to them, this is a minimum result, but even with the minimum result, you're going to make an ROI. And that is a really important key. Brian, you wanted to add something? I wanted to kick it back to you.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah. And again, going back to what I said earlier, this is earned, right? So if you're in a place where you haven't proven this concept over a 6, 12-month, 18-month course with any long-term clients, that's okay. Like, you may have to start with someone who you're going to work for free or at a highly discounted rate just to start and prove the concept. But over time, like, you should be, once you've got some kind of consistent result, asking people to commit for 90 days minimum. Then once you've gotten proof of concept at 6 months, you can continue to kind of expand that and the timeline at which you're asking from someone based on the long-term results of the clients you work with. I also want to add, like, I wanted to come on here and almost jokingly be like, here's how you sell 12-month contracts. You just do it and you don't do anything else. Okay, show's over. Because some of our clients actually do that, right? Like, Larry is a great example of someone who only sells a 12-month contract. The asterisk on this is Larry sells SEO services. Not everyone does that. A lot of you are going to be selling pay-per-click, SaaS, that type of thing. So a little bit of a hack I want to give you here and how you can sell a 12-month contract, but still make it easy for someone to agree if you are doing a more volatile offering like pay-per-click, frankly, is you can ask them to commit to 12 months if in 3 to 4 months you achieve X, right? So it can be a delayed commitment to agree to work with you for 12 months, but they're only having to, we essentially call these offers a love it or leave it offer. This is just kind of expanded a little bit and not in a condensed time frame. So it's a way you can leverage this as well.
So I want to touch on a little bit of this, two main things, the success KPI, which we'll get to, but I want to touch on this objection that you're probably all thinking, which is, if I go ahead and pitch even a 6-month commitment, let alone a 12-month commitment, one of the main differentiators of what makes you different a lot of times has been used, as we said, oh, we do month-to-month contracts. There's no long-term commitment, right? What has created this mindset in the buyer's mind, in the prospect's mind, in the agency space is that there's actually a benefit to a month-by-month commitment. But what we know as agency owners, SaaS businesses, coaches, a month-by-month commitment is actually bad for the prospect. The reason being is that an unrealistic expectation is set that we're able to achieve some certain result in this month that's not possible. So I'll give you an example, okay? Imagine in a different world, not the agency space, let's use the gym space, fitness space, okay? You have someone that weighs 250 pounds and their goal is to lose 35 pounds. And they want to do this in a month frame. Now, I don't know if that's possible, but I think it's probably not, right? I would expect that a fitness professional would not feel comfortable selling, oh, we'll do it on a month-by-month frame with the expectation that you're going to lose the 35 pounds in that month, because that person's going to cancel when after a month they've lost maybe 6 pounds. Now, you might think logically, oh, well, aren't you making progress and thus you make it happen? No, because even when progress is made, it's nowhere near close to the success KPI that the person, the prospect, the actual client had in mind. And so now there's no chance for them to retain, even though you've made progress. And we've all heard this before. You lose clients not because you've just provided bad results. That's happened to everyone, but you've also lost clients even when you've provided good results. How does that happen? It's from bad expectation setting. And so I want you to actually turn it on its head. The benefit of having the 6 and 12 month commitment is actually what makes you different. So when you are pitching, you can use this frame, 3, 2, 1. Hey, Danielle, a lot of people that are in our market, right? They'll offer you an opportunity to work with them on a month-by-month basis. Basically, like you only work with us on a month-by-month basis. And if you're happy, then you continue. But what that ends up doing is creates an inappropriate expectation for you to think that some magic, sprinkles are going to be spread out, that you're going to automatically get this result in this time frame. What we understand is that in order to achieve X result, it's going to take at least a minimum of 6 months. We ask for a 12-month commitment because ultimately that allows us to build the foundation and take the time appropriate to grow and scale. Here's how we do it though, okay? To make it easier for you. In the contract, we do have a 12-month commitment, but you have an opt-out clause after 90 days. If you're not satisfied and see the actual progress in 90 days, we will pull the plug and you can stop working with us. In 90 days, we're going to get this result, which will showcase to you that we're on the path to achieving the thing that you want. Within 6 months, I expect us to have significant ROI on a consistent basis. And I also expect you to make money prior to that, but I want you to understand the appropriate expectation setting. By month 12, you would have had, and then you explain the result. What you're doing is turning it on its head, where the prospect thinks the benefit is the month-to-month, but actually the benefit is the longer-term commitment, because that's how you can get the result. That's what's required. And leveraging this final comment, 3, 2, 1. Look, what I'm going to do here is tell you the reality. I'm not going to tell you something just to make a quick dollar. There's too many people that you've probably spoken to already, or companies that you might have already worked with that are just committed to, by any means necessary, getting the sale now. We are focused on getting the result. Period. So what I'm going to do is leverage for you exactly how long that's going to take. And it will take at least this amount of time to do that. That's why we are different, because we're not here just to get a yes to get paid that first time. We're here to get you a result. The job starts when you pay us, and this is the expectation of that time frame. That model will make a huge difference for you. So I just want to throw that out there, give you that insight. Brian, if you want to touch on anything from there, we can continue.
No, that was excellent. And this is kind of bridging us to one of the, talking points here that we have and wanted to make sure we covered, but making sure that pricing makes sense for them when they're not feeling maybe a burden of all of that, or even transparently, maybe that's for everyone's like in our mind, like, oh, like who would pay a month or a year in advance? There are bluntly a lot of people out there, especially like in the legal space, the medical space, 100%. Who could easily do that and not even think twice about it, right? So I think you want to make sure you have that mindset that, if you are worried that they can't afford it, then you're maybe speaking that into existence.
100%. I also want to leverage, Brian, for them too, like the concept of what niche you're in and how long their process takes, right? It doesn't work, obviously, if their process is very short, but there's a lot of businesses out there. Like if you work with home renovation, for example, right? Like the home renovation projects they work on are not usually like a quick turnaround. Like it does take time and effort, especially large projects. Could take a month, could take 2 months, could take 3 months. You can leverage that, right? It's not going to be a 1-to-1 ratio, but leveraging it and putting it in the perspective of the prospect helps them understand why you have this longer term commitment. You're like, look, just like you, when you're working on a home renovation project, right? It might take you 5-6 weeks, but there's work that has to be done, expertise that's put in prior to the fact, communication with the client back and forth to make sure it's exactly what they want, making sure after the fact they're satisfied, right? This takes time. It's not like, oh, I want a brand new roof and I want the kitchen redone and bam, it's done. Just like that. These projects can take 2 months, 3 months, 6 months longer. Marketing takes that time too. Yeah. If you're looking for a fly-by-night success, you're going to end up getting burned so many times before. And either you've already been there before or you're leading towards that. And the option you're going to have by the end of this call is committing to someone for 6 months that's really going to be your strategy partner. It's going to actually help you get the result because we're committed to working together instead of a, oh my God, it has to work this second or right now, right? Without understanding really what it takes to do that. Or you can go with the fly-by-night company, realize you're not satisfied in 30 or 60 days, and then I'll follow up with you. Either way is fine. I'm just trying to save you time and money by working with us first. That framing is key.
I'll add a half joke here. I would not use that with roofers. We just recently had our roof redone. And it was crazy impressive how quickly they did it. I'm not joking. There was like 12 dudes on there and they just did it in a day and a half and it was just done. I was like, what? So anyways, definitely use that cautiously, but you can use an example in another industry like we did earlier with the fitness metaphor to make your point as well.
in terms of framing, because this is one of the promises we made, how you frame it, I would be framing right at the front end, right? In terms of their qualification of whether or not they've used marketing companies before, when inherently they have. I would expect 95% of the people you guys speak to at this point have used a marketing company at some juncture of their business. We're kind of beyond like the digital marketing bubble where like businesses have never worked with a marketing company. That's going to be a super small percentage of the people you speak to, probably less than 5%. The majority of them have worked with other companies and have been burned or not satisfied with results, right? And you can leverage at the front end once they say, oh, I've been burned, why they've been burned based off poor expectation setting, based on not explaining how long it's going to be. So you get to have a leg up right away that you're not telling them at the end with shock and awe that it's going to be a 6 or 12-month commitment. You're telling them up front, based off a bad experience they had, why you're not going to have that bad experience because you're asking them to commit up front. That is going to make a huge difference. Now, it's okay to also leverage to the point of saying we will have a 3-month pullout clause, so you still get that chance to commit to it, but it's really, really valuable to be considerate of. We do this actually in prospecting on demand. So I want to give you like a little bit of inside baseball on how we do it, okay? Prospecting on demand, it's a $3,000 a month coaching program. Over 6 months is the minimum commitment, period. We don't do a lower commitment than that. It's an $18,000 investment. In the contract and on the calls, we say automatically in month 7, you are moved into continuity automatically with an infinite end date, right? There's an indefinite. There is not a specific end date. If after 6 months you want to stop, you message us and tell us and we will stop. If not, we will just continue to work with you as status quo, right? And our ascension rate is very high on the continuity agreements because we deliver exceptional results in 6 months. But very commonly we'll be asked, well, can we do a 3-month? Can we do 1 month? Can we do this, right? And the reason we can't is because it's impossible to get the result just like that so fast. That's why we have the timelines there. This is how you frame it to make a difference in your sales conversations. Leverage it up front. Don't just make it come at the end where they're like, why would I do that? That's crazy. I don't want to commit to 6 or 12 months. And then leveraging it, that's how you're going to get a 90-day commitment. Share it up front once they're telling you that they've had a problem with another company, so you can leverage that usage of saying that's because we didn't have enough time to actually get the result. And that's a really important key. Before we talk about objections, we rarely do this on the actual show, but does anyone have any questions about what we're talking about today before we do objections? Just want to make sure. And if Brian, there's anything else you wanted to note, I want to give that floor for you as well. But
oh, excellent.
Cool. If you have any questions, just raise your hand or whatever, or just let me know in the chat. The last thing I really want to make sure is clear before we do any objection handling is understanding success KPIs. This is absolutely critical. It's absolutely critical what we're talking about. If you listen to anything I share with you, the entire presentation today, this is the number one most important thing by far, okay? You have to be extremely clear with your prospect of what a success KPI is, meaning what they want to have happen is what you can make happen in a specified time frame. I've shared this story before. I'll share it again. It's important to know. When I was 20 years old, I worked with a local gym, okay? When we work with the local gym, I made a commitment of we'll do month by month. That was so that I can make a sale easier. Again, we already spoke about this at the front end, right? At the end of the first call meeting, really, it was in person, right? They paid me, I think it was $2,000 per month, okay? We did an entire month with them and we generated them, I think, like approximately 100 leads or so. I remember going and driving to the gym for our renewal conversation, thinking, man, we crushed it. They're going to be so excited. I come in and I can immediately tell they're not happy at all. They're very somber, frustrated. Their looks on their face look like I, swindled them, right? And they're like, we got, whatever, 100 leads, but, no one was interested. We didn't get any signups. It's a huge waste of money, blah, blah. And it was just terrible. It was a really bad experience. And the lesson from that was, I thought they were going to be happy based off 100 leads. They didn't care at all about the leads. They only wanted signups. Now, all of you can sit here listening on replay or live and think, well, obviously, Alex, isn't that common sense? The reality is, though, that's easy to say in hindsight and in retrospect. But as a 20-year-old who didn't have a lot of experience in business development, I didn't even consider getting their opinion on it, right? And this, frankly, happens quite a bit, even from experienced people. Make sure you have a very clear understanding of what they want, their satisfaction level. We've used this metaphor before about like using the restaurant order. If you go to a restaurant and order a pizza and they bring you chicken wings and, stromboli, even if it's amazing, right? You're like, where's the pizza, right? you have to make sure that you understand what their order is, especially in a long-term commitment. If there's a long-term commitment, what's the success KPI in the first 90 days? What's the success KPI in the 6 month? And what's the ultimate KPI that we have to hit? And if you don't know what KPI is, it's key performance indicator, the data point that allows you to make sure that both you and the prospect, or excuse me, in this case, client, are satisfied so they actually retain with you. It's really, really important to know this, okay?
Yeah.
It's actually very critical.
And
Before we wrap up,
real quick too, and another trap that we fall into is selling them what we want versus what's going to be the thing that actually gets them the result. Just because we're excited about a feature of Go High Level, or all of the things it could potentially do, or running Facebook ads because that's what we're passionate about. If it's misaligned with the person you're selling it to, what happens is they may be bought into you because they like you and your enthusiasm, but you don't ultimately get the result, and the expectations just get miscommunicated. So it's really, you guys need to really look at this is why it's so important to pick some audience to serve, a community and niche, because you can figure out what the desired state, the desired outcomes of this group of people, and most of them will share the same desired outcomes, and you can replicate campaigns around that. So
that's right. So these are the most common sales objections that we'll see pretty fairly regarding 6 or 12-month contracts. Frankly, these are kind of the most common regardless of what you're selling and how long you're selling it for. I would just love to know, for the people that are watching, based on 1 through 8, what do you see the most? Can you just drop it in the chat below? I'd love to know. And again, if you're watching this on Facebook as well, which we appreciate, if you can hit that like button and just drop a 7 in the chat, that would really help us a ton. It makes a huge difference. It allows more people to see the content that we do and allows us to do this show for you every single week. For those of you that are live here, I'll drop this for you so you can just go like the post after this. It would help us a great amount. So if you don't mind doing that, thank you. All right, so we have a couple comments here on 1 and 5. So what I want to do is I'm going to handle both 1 and 5 for you. And then if there's any more that you guys need from me, I will happily do it for you. So number 1 is, before the offer is presented, what is the cost? Okay, pretty common objection that we see pretty frequently related to, like, what's the cost? Let's just touch on the importance of semantics. And one of our coaches, Michael Popper, who's a sales coach in Prospecting on Demand, he's definitely probably the most semantical. He's definitely probably, that's a perfect, very great irony for talking about semantics. He is definitely, there we go, the most semantical person that I've ever met in my life, in terms of being very cognizant of the types of words that he uses. Growing up, one of the main things that my dad was very semantical on all the time was the difference between cheap, right? Cheap and expensive, okay? Cheap or less expensive. A lot of people will talk about this concept of, I can get this product, this thing, this offer cheaper elsewhere. What you have to do is make sure that you're leveraging, yes, you can. Cheaper means lower quality. That is the definition, okay? A more particular term you want to use is less expensive, right? Less expensive is not the same thing as cheap. Now, yeah, they're similar definition, but cheap means inherently lower quality. The framework for if something is cheaper is you pay what you get for. You won't go to McDonald's, buy a burger that's $5, and then compare that to a 5-star restaurant that's burger is $25, because the beef, the condiments, the material that they're using, the ingredients are significantly better and of higher quality than McDonald's. You wouldn't say, well, this one is better. No, you would say this one is cheaper. Now, you can have the opinion that that's okay for you, and that's fine. Not every single person has to work with you if they're happier with a cheaper quality service, but you get what you pay for. So if we're considering the concept of, I can get this cheaper elsewhere, or what's the cost, right? It's really important to consider this framework. What's the cost is the same thing as utilizing the cheaper model. Here's how. Cost is the wrong word. Cost has a connotation, right, that frames a loss. Cost usually comes with the consideration, right, that there's a sunk cost. Not always, but that's usually the prospect's mindset. Instead, we want to immediately change their mindset to the word investment. So if someone says to Eric, hey, Eric, what's the cost? I've done this a million times before. Like, I appreciate you. I just don't want to like go through the whole rigmarole of like this call. And like, I already know what you're going to do. Like, what's the cost, man? Like, hey, I respect completely what you're talking about, and I'm grateful that you'd even jump on the call and be transparent like that up front. I know this might sound semantical, but I want to be cognizant of something here. It's not the cost, right? It's an investment. Anything that I offer to any attorney that I'd be working with, I'm 100% confident you'll get a return on the investment, right? If you put $1 into my ATM machine and I give you $3 back out, how much money would you put into it? Unlimited, right? I know it sounds obvious, but in the same vein, I don't want someone coming to me and saying, what's the cost? So here's what I'll say. The investment at minimum is going to be $2,500 per month. At least. I'm more than happy to go through this conversation with you and show you why it's a no-brainer to work with me at that rate, but it could be more expensive depending on your market, on your needs, on your requirements, etc. But at least it's $2,500 a month, and I have nothing to hide. I don't have to go through a whole presentation for an hour to share that with you. Reality is you're going to make so much more money than what you invest in, and if you're comfortable with that, let's chat about it moving forward. What you're doing is you're framing for them the answer they want. A lot of times when I hear people answering this objection of what's the cost, they're trying to give you all the ways to not tell them what the cost is, but that's very skeptical. That's very questionable. If you're not comfortable with telling someone the price because you're like, well, I have to do my whole presentation first, it's asinine. That doesn't make any sense. You should feel confident and comfortable to tell them it's an investment. This is what the investment is going to be at least, and why it's going to make a no-brainer decision. Let me tell you why. Right? There's nothing wrong with sharing the investment up front if they ask for it. If they ask for it, go for it. I already told all of you guys in our Facebook group right here, right now, how much prospecting on demand mentorship costs, how much the investment is. Did anyone get that? No one caught it?
I know what it costs.
No, see, because I said cost instead of investment, right? I already told you it's $3,000 a month, but it's a no-brainer because you're going to make more money than that, right? Like, that's the idea. We're not hiding the price. There's nothing to hide from. It's just expressing the investment. So just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. Hopefully it will help you understand that framework. And then I can do the other one, which was, what did you guys say? 5, which was, I need to think about it. Yeah, it's kind of an annoying objection. I hear you. Let's talk about number 5, which is I need to think about it. All right. First and foremost, the easiest way to handle this objection is to understand variables of an objection. When we consider that at the end of every call, there's 3 options. Okay. There's a yes, which is what we're looking for. So we get paid. Yes, I want to do this. No, which is I'm not interested in this, which is the most rare response, by the way, by far. And then the most common response is a bucket of responses, which is maybe. Maybe is veiled as any objection that doesn't give them a decision of yes or no on the call, which is I need to see a proposal. Can I talk to a client? I need to think about it. I need to talk to my life partner, yada, yada, yada. All of those things are maybe. So what we're always trying to do is isolate the variable to make sure that they're either 1, not jerking your chain because they don't feel comfortable to say no, or 2, right, that they actually have interest and you need to know clearly what they need to see. So let's talk about it in 3, 2, 1. Hey, totally understand that you want to think about it. I respect that too. I know it's an important decision for you. I just want you to hear this really quick if it's okay. I would not make this offer to you if I didn't feel 100% confident, Brandy, that this was right for you. I know that's easy for me to say. Obviously, I'm biased. Obviously, there's money on the line for me. But I would say this bluntly so you know, okay? If some other person you speak to has the exact same offer, same exact results, same exact price, I would tell you to go work with them. I would. I know it sounds asinine because obviously I want the money and I want to work with you as a client, but truly my goal on this call is to get you the result that you're looking for. And I know working with me will do that. That doesn't necessarily change the fact that you have to think about it, but I just want to imbue that confidence to you so you know truly where my heart is. I want this result for you and I know we can do it through working together and I know the investment's right for you. I want you to get to that position too. Obviously, I was hoping you'd be at that position now, but I respect that you're not. Here's the thing. It's 3:35, right? We booked this call for 45 minutes. I would hate for you to jump off this call and immediately have 25 questions or worse, really have no time dedicated to think about it because look, life gets in the way. You've got clients, you've got responsibilities, you got kids to pick up from school, you got your wife at home, you got a movie to catch up on. There's a lot of other things going on that are more priority, than this, right? All that to be said, why don't we do this? Why don't we just turn our video off, turn off the mic? Why don't you just give yourself 10 minutes to actually think about it? Like right now. I know it sounds crazy, but basically what we'll give you is safe space to consider this. And if there's any questions that come up, just unmute yourself and I'll be right here to answer any question. There's zero pressure. There's no fake urgency. I'm not going to say, oh, you're going to lose your spot in line. No BS sales tactics. I just want you to feel confident and comfortable that this is right for you. When you come back on, if you say, hey, I'm ready to go, we can start. Or if you say, I still need more time, that's completely okay. I'll give you that time and we can reschedule for tomorrow or the day after. Does that sound fair? When this is done effectively, guys, I see so often in the call reviews and POD, people utilizing this, people turn off their camera, they come back 5 minutes later, they ask a question, the question is handled, and then bam, they join, right? A lot of times people use the word, I need to think about it, as a safe word, a filler word to get off the call, because they don't actually have any intention to think about it, not consciously, but unconsciously, meaning like they get off the call and they have more things they have to do in their life. And so they just kind of forget about it. And so when you get on the next call, they don't even remember anything. And so the chances of them closing is so low. So using that confidence, right? Using that confidence and giving them the space right then and there without putting them in any position of feeling like I'm cornering you. You have to make the decision this second. You're going to lose your spot in line. I'm going to go to your competitor. None of those tactics are effective and won't work for you. But this model will give you a really good chance to get the sale. Hopefully that helps. Brian, do we have time for one more? We should we wrap up.
You got one more? Hit it.
All right. What was the other one here? Number 3? What's 3? Let me just check the Facebook groups here if there's anything anyone wanted. 6, I dislike doing proposals. Okay, cool. I got you, Mike. No worries. It's on. Okay. I dislike doing proposals. Me too, by the way. Me too. I'm a big not proposal fan. Big not proposal fan? What is that? That's not even English.
That's multitasking English.
Yeah, that's not even English. Okay, I'm a big not fan. Cool. Let's talk about the proposal objection. So it's something like, hey, Lewis, can I see a proposal? 3, 2, 1. Hey, absolutely. I'm more than happy to share with you whatever you want to see. Just for clarity, okay? When people ask me for proposals, I want to be on the same page of exactly what you're expecting, okay? I don't have like any sort of like super fancy, pretty proposals like already done. Like I didn't spend any time on a graphic design team for it. We're really honed in and focused on result, whatever that is. Let's use mine as an example. 3, 2, 1. We're really focused on getting attorneys like 20 to 30 additional cases per month and not on like fancy, proposals. Okay. So when I say proposal, like what I usually do is just send an email recapping, what we covered on this call. Can you clarify for me if that's okay first? Oh yeah, Lewis, that's fine. Like I don't need anything fancy, blah, blah. Cool. Side note, the reason you do that is because there is a lot of times an expectation of like what a proposal looks like. But the reality is if you spend the time making the proposal, oftentimes they skip like the 4 pages and they just look at the price and they're like, no, I'm not doing this. Right. Or they don't actually have any intention of working with you and they're just asking you for it. And then you put in all this time. And lastly, in the framework, like they're going to basically like judge you if it's not super nice. Right. Now, if this is like web design stuff, it's a little bit different, but like for PPC and like SaaS and stuff, like we don't need that type of proposal. So to me, the main thing is just trying to get clarity. Like, Luis, can you just explain to me very clearly exactly what you want to see in this proposal so I know? They're like, oh, I just want kind of a recap of this call, et cetera. It's like, okay, here's how I'm going to recap this so you understand. Side note, this is very valuable what I'm going to tell you. So please listen to this carefully. Here's what I'm going to provide to you in this proposal. I'm going to explain to you where you are currently based on what you've told me, where you want to go, okay, what the gap has been as to why you haven't been able to go from where you are now to where you want to go, and the urgency that you shared to me, which was this, okay? We're going to make sure we have that as a compartmentalized expression of this, proposal as to why I made you the offer for this specific result in this specific time frame with the ROI expectation. Does that make sense? That's what you're going to get. Perfect. Now, just based on everything today, can you share with me bluntly if you're leaning towards working with me or not, if you don't mind, right? And it's okay, right? If your mindset is like, oh, I don't really want to work with you, it'd be easier just to send a proposal and I'll think about it. I just want to get a sense of where you stand. No, you do want to work with us. You just kind of want to review it, make sure you're comfortable with it. I respect that. No worries at all. Do you want to have any time to consider it now for maybe 10 minutes or so to consider if any questions come up? Side note, similar to how you just handled the previous objection. No, I kind of got to run for a next call. Okay, no worries. Here's what I'd ask of you, okay? Can we please make sure we have a call booked for 24 hours from now so you have the time to review this proposal before our call tomorrow? Got it. Perfect. Okay, last thing. Can I ask one more thing of you? Awesome. There's no pressure on this, but I just want to ask you, okay? If I was to make this decision, if I can make this decision easier for you, would you be open to hearing how I can make it easier for you? Yeah, sure, Louise. Okay, tell me. Okay, give me an open mind. Fair? Perfect. What if you put down a $500 refundable deposit? Hear me out, okay? What ends up happening for most prospects jumping off calls like this, right, is they're battling in their mind, do I want the result or do I want to give up the money? Do I want the result? Do I want to give up the money? And most of the time, due to the fact that people have a hard time making decisions and there's a financial investment required, a lot of the times they'll withhold themselves, preclude themselves from making the investment out of fear, right? What ends up happening is when you overcome the fear, by putting the finances down, $500 refundable deposit in this case, okay, your mind actually allows you, without the emotional side of it, to have a pragmatic view of, I've already done the hard thing of paying, right? I do have to pay the rest, but I've already done the hard part. Now I could truly think about whether or not this is right for me. Now, if you are not happy and don't want to work with me for any reason, you just tell me, break glass in case of emergency, bam, $500 right back to you. You don't have to worry about it. This is all to help affect your decision-making. And yes, in terms of like sales psychology, so you know, the chances of having someone actually close after a deposit is way, way higher for transparency's sake. If you want to try it, you can. Nothing bad can happen from it. Now, what you can do is some people will say yes, other people will say no, but ultimately it just gives them the option, because a lot of times when people are saying they want a proposal, it's either they're jerking your chain, or two, they just have a hard time making decisions. And this is a great way to help people pragmatically make decisions. Cool. I'm tired.
We're good, man. Let's wrap it up. I'm going to drop a link real quick to everyone here hanging out. Some of you already know this, but myself and Alex every week rotate the Extendly group coaching call. It's going to be in about 18 minutes. I just dropped the link to it. You can come hang out. It's open Q&A. I'm going to be there hosting today. So if you guys want to come over there and ask me anything and everything you need around growing your business, getting more clients, closing more deals, I'm going to hang out for an hour and take care of anyone who wants to hang out too.
Alrighty, last request, please. I just dropped the link to this Facebook Live. If all of you that are on the live here can go in and just click the like button and drop like a 7 as a comment on the video, it helps us so much. It increases the reach by each person by like 300 people. I know it's ridiculous, but that's how Facebook's algorithm works. So if you can help us get more people to see it, we can keep bringing you really valuable content every single Thursday. We will be back next Thursday. We're going to be doing a session with Jose Soto of Click a Team, talking about some great prospecting strategies, which we're really looking forward to. So again, today we talked about like sales and retention. Next week, we're going to go back to talking about booking calls. We're here for you every single week. If you're interested in prospecting on demand, always feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help you and support you. We have 4 spots available right now for POD mentorship. Once that's closed, we will not be able to work with any more after 50. So hope you have a lovely rest of your day. As always, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.